Week 10 of the fantasy football season. Here's a few defense DST units I would start this week. The first is the Denver Broncos. So the Broncos, they had a couple mediocre matchups on paper, but they overcame it, and they've been 3-0 now as this Denver Bronco team in some of these toss-up games. Week 7 versus the Giants, 32 points allowed, 4 sacks, interception. Week 8 versus the Cowboys, high-powered offense, 24 points allowed, 2 sacks, 2 INTs. And Week 9 at Houston, 15 points allowed and 4 sacks. So this week, a great matchup versus the Vegas Raiders that give up the 4th most fantasy points to DSTs on the season. I know Geno Smith, he had a big game last week, going over 300 yards, thrown for 4 touchdowns, and Brock Bowers returned with the monster 127 on 12 catches and 3 touchdowns. But I think this Denver Bronco team, they're going to go out there, obviously. They're going to make plays. We know Patrick Surtain, he's out a few more weeks with the injury where he's on IR. But still, this Bronco team, even without Surtain, they get to the quarterback, they create some turnovers, and they're going to hold you more weeks than not in those mid-teens, low 20s. So this week with a great matchup, and Geno Smith's been a turnover machine this season. They're definitely a DST. I would start the next DST is the Cleveland Browns. So the Browns, one of the more underrated defenses in the league, and they got obviously the best pass rusher in the league. In my opinion, Myles Garrett leading the way as pass rusher, and one of the better corners in the league in Denzel Ward. So this week, a great matchup at the New York Jets. They give up the 4th most fantasy points to DSTs on the season. And once again, Aaron Glenn is holding back who he's going to start, not telling the media or announcing who he's going to start. So obviously, it's going to be Fields or Taylor. And let's be honest, those just aren't great options that the New York Jets have. I know Fields, he had a good game in Week 8, but the games have been few and far between for Justin Fields this season. And that was versus arguably the worst defense in the league of the Cincinnati Bengals. So the last few weeks for this Brown DST, Week 7 versus the Dolphins, 6 points allowed, 4 sacks, 3 INTs, a fumble recovery touchdown. In Week 8 at the Patriots, did give up 30 points, but still had 6 sacks, an interception, and a fumble recovery. So like I said, even if they give up points, which I don't see them giving more than 21 points in this ball game to the New York Jets, they're going to get at it with Myles Garrett rushing the passer, and also a good linebacking crew with sound tacklers. So like I said, Cleveland's got a good defense this season, and this ball game could be like a 13-9 final. It wouldn't be surprising to me between these two teams. So the Browns, definitely a DST to start this week. The next DST, the Buffalo Bills. So the Bills, they've wrote the ship a little bit defensively over the last few weeks, and we know they're dealing with some big injuries in this defense, is this Buffalo Bill team. But the last few games now, they've gone out there after Week 6 at Atlanta, they got gashed, giving Bijan Robinson over 200 yards total from scrimmage in that game. 24 points allowed, 2 sacks, a block kick. Week 8 at Carolina, 9 points allowed, 7 sacks, an interception, 2 fumble recoveries. And then Week 9, I thought they did a great job versus a great offense in the Chiefs. 21 points allowed, 3 sacks and INT. So this week, a great matchup at the Dolphins. Give up the 8th most fantasy points to DSTs on the season. And Miami, we know, too, is having a bad year. Besides Jalen Waddle and Devon Achane, not much going on in that offense. Offensive line isn't all that great as well for this Miami Dolphin team. And I think Buffalo, they're going to go out there, get a few sacks in this game, get a pick or two, and they're going to keep this Miami offense within that 13 to 20 point range. I think this week is this Buffalo Bill team. So right now, after coming off an encouraging performance versus a great offense, they're DST. I like this week to start. Next DST is the Carolina Panthers. So the Panthers is a 1-week streaming option. Obviously, I'm going off matchup, and they got a great one versus the New Orleans Saints coming into town, where New Orleans gives up the 6th most fantasy points to DSTs on the season. So Carolina, they're a nice waiver wire pickup streaming option this week. And the last few weeks for this defense, Week 7 at the Jets, 6 points allowed, 6 sacks, 2 INTs. Week 8 versus Buffalo, they got the doors blown off, no doubt about it. 40 points allowed, 2 sacks. And Week 9 at Green Bay, holding down that offense to 13 points. Sack, interception, a fumble recovery. Pretty impressive for this Panther DST. So like I said, they're out there in over 95% of fantasy leagues. They're a great streaming option. New Orleans with the rookie Tyler Show in there. I don't see him moving the football great. Alvin Kamara is having a down year. And they might trade one of Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed with the deadline here today. So with all those factors, and the Panthers playing good football now, winning 3 out of 4, they're definitely a DST. I would start this week. And the final DST is the Philadelphia Eagles. So the Eagles travel to Green Bay. They actually got some reinforcements during the bye week, trading for Jair Alexander, was a Seagull team from the Baltimore Ravens, and then trading from Phillips, one of the underrated rushers in the league, linebacker in Phillips from the Miami Dolphins. So this defense, the last couple weeks, they've buckled down. They've gone out there and make plays. And this week at Green Bay, after what we saw Green Bay do versus a mediocre Panther team, not much, only 13 points scored in that game. I think this Philadelphia Eagle team, they're going to go out there and cause havoc. And now with Tucker Kraft out for the season with a torn ACL, it takes a big, obviously, playmaker off the field and arguably their number one option in the passing game. So the last few weeks for Philadelphia, week 6 at the Giants, I think it was just a fluky game, 34 points allowed, 2 sacks. Week 7 at Minnesota Vikings, 22 points allowed, 2 sacks, a pick 6, 2 interceptions in that one. In week 8 versus the Giants, 20 points allowed, 5 sacks, and now coming off the bye, getting reinforcements, very talented players, adding in 2 trades for this Eagle team. I think this week at the Green Bay Packers, it's going to be a tough day for Jordan Love in this offense. And like I said, to be down Tucker Kraft and possibly Matthew Golden missing this game as well. Philadelphia's defense, they could get their pass rush going and make some plays this week. So that's a few defense DST units I would start for week 10 of the fantasy football season.